Welcome back to another video. My name is Anthony from Grandstand Sports Data, and today we will be discussing how to find your sports betting edge. In this video, we will be discussing how to find a positive edge, what it takes, and how to maintain that edge throughout your whole handicapping experience. So let's get right into it. So as we showed in our previous sports betting videos, and mostly in our how to pick a sports bet video, we showed the categories of a sports bettor and that we must exercise these muscle groups in order to improve in the handicapping world. So the following video will cover the edge recognition topics. Remember, most of our sports betting videos going forward will cover these important categories, so make sure to subscribe for more content and hit the like button if you would like to spread the word. It would be greatly appreciated. So first, how to find your edge. Well, to begin, we must know how to handicap games. It's easier said than done. What we need to do first when we handicap games is separate the real information from noise. So not to go off on a tangent, a lot of what you hear on Fox Sports 1 or ESPN is mostly noise. It's not real information that could be, applied to game scenarios. They have a job to do as much as you do. Your job as a handicapper is to handicap whatever games it is that you are handicapping. Say if you're a baseball handicapper or you're all sports, whatever it may be, your job is to separate the real information from the noise. Well, ESPN's job is not to relay sports news. It's to build stories so that you can watch the games that are aired on ESPN. That's what their job is. You need to realize that. The next bullet, as a handicapper, you must develop an accurate narrative of the competition. So on your own, away from the noise, taking away all the noise in the sports world, you need to develop a narrative of the game that you're trying to evaluate or handicap. So for instance, if there's a football game coming up Sunday and you would like to bet that game, you have to play out a prediction, whether it's in your head, if it's in a model, whatever it may be, you have to develop a narrative for that competition. Next, analyze and optimize odds. This is a very overlooked subject when it comes to finding your edge, but it's probably the most important one. You must always compare and evaluate odds given by the bookmaker. You don't just go to one bookmaker and place your bet. That's bad handicapping. It's very elementary handicapping. You must have different outs or books as they're known, maybe 5. Some beginner handicappers, we would say 3 to 5, have 3 to 5 outs, and you compare the prices to the games that you would like to bet. Now, after that, you have to recognize and place the bets that maximize their chance of profit. So, if you had a game that you liked, say for instance, the Chiefs were playing the Bengals this weekend, and both teams were a minus 110. It was split down the middle. It was a pick'em game. And you went to 3 different sports books. They were all minus 110, but one sports book had the Kansas City Chiefs, who you liked in the game, at a plus 100. You would be getting plus odds on a team that you thought was going to win the game. It's not sure thing money, but it's more than what you would have placed if you were just doing it blindly. So always shop your odds. Okay, so let's get into expected value, or also known as EV. It's usually known as a bet's average outcome. And you calculate it by adding up each possible outcome multiplied by that outcome's probability. Anthony, you're losing me here. Can you give me an example? Absolutely. Let's look at a coin flip scenario where your friend offers to give you $1 for every tail flipped, and you wager $1 with every flip. So as you can see from this equation here, it's a 50% chance of you winning the bet, and you will receive $2. So chance of winning, 50%. You will win $2. Now, let's add that to our chance of losing, which we know is 50%. Remember, it's a coin flip. And we would be losing the amount risked, which is $1. So we know that if our friend is going to give us $1 extra for every time we flip the tail, we would have a plus 50-cent EV. Now, what does that mean? That means that if you play this game over and over and over again, since you have plus EV, in the long run, you will be a winner. You will be up. You will be in the green in terms of your profits. Now, if this scenario was flipped and you had to wager $2 and only won $1, now that would be minus EV. And minus EV means that the more and more you play this game, you will eventually go broke. Now, here's another example which I try to explain to people. If you go into a casino, almost every game has you at minus EV. Whether that's roulette, whether that's blackjack, whatever you play, it's a minus EV bet. Now, if you play it longer and longer as the night goes on, with your bankroll that you brought to the casino, you will eventually lose. Now, here's the flip side of it. Well, what if I don't play it long and I only place 1 or 2 bets? Exactly. That is your best opportunity to win in minus EV scenarios, to play as less as you can. So if you go to the, I know it sounds crazy, but if you go to the casino with, say, $1,000 and you wanted to place a bet in the casino with a minus EV game, which is all of them, you would place that $1,000 right away. You lose, that's it, you're done, whatever. You win, you came up, get out of there. With plus EV scenarios, it works the opposite. You want to place little bets over time as much as you can, because in the long run, you will make money. Now, the most important thing that I will say throughout any of these sports betting materials, presentations, and so on and so forth is going to be the last bullet in this slide. The whole point of sports betting, or a handicapper, and their objective is, their whole mission is to assign their own probabilities that will give them plus EV. That is all they're trying to do. If that's not your goal as a handicapper, you will not win in the long run. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. So let's move on to break-even percentage. And this is best when comparing with money line bets and spread bets that have a set payout. So any bet with the set payout schedule, bettors must achieve a certain winning percentage over time, or else if they place that bet over and over, they will eventually go broke. So here are some examples. As you can see at the bottom, the coin flip. Remember, it's a 50% chance of you winning. It's either going to be heads or it's going to be tails. 2 outcomes, 50% chance. Well, now if you look at a standard minus 110 bet in terms of sports, you see this a lot in spreads and in totals. Minus 110 bet, it's $110 divided by their total payout of $210. You need a win percentage of 52.4%. Now, I hope that caught your eye. In games where it's a minus 110, a 50% chance, it's 50-50. They have it set at 52.41%. That is known as the VIG, or the commission that the bookmakers are winning, or not winning, but taking from you. It's their way of doing service. Now, the third bullet. What if you bet a 2-to-1 underdog? Well, you would wager $100. Your total payout would be $300. That makes the break-even percentage at 33.33%. So the formula here is pretty simple now that we walked through a few examples. It's the amount of wager divided by the total payout. This will give you the break-even percentage. So now when you have seen this in a minus 110 bet, you know that you would need to win at a 52.41% chance, or not chance, or a 52.41% clip in order to just make money. So next, here's a table of all the break-even percentage, or not all of them. We just have the most common odds here from minus 200 all the way down to plus 200, and then their break-even percentages to the right. If you would like to see this, more in depth, and before I touch on any of it, you can hit the pause button on your video and take a look. But just some brief ones that I'd like to just go run by. If you look at the top at the minus 200, hey, you're a person who likes to place favorable bets. You think, hey, this team's going to win. I'll just collect the money. Well, if you place almost only minus 200 bets in terms of odds, your break-even percentage is 66.7%. That's how much they have to win. They almost have to win 7 out of 10 times. That's tough in sports betting. Now, if we drop to the middle, the minus 110, probably the most often, or the most appeared odd, I would say, because of the spread bets and the totals, you have to hit at more than 50%. You have to hit at a 52.4% clip. That's the difference. Some people say, oh, I only have to win 50% of the time. No, you don't. No, you do not. Not on minus 110 bets. You have to hit at a higher clip. Down at the bottom, just like we spoke about in the previous slide, the plus 200, that you figure, hey, you know what? It makes sense. I like underdogs. They make a lot of money. Let me bet them and see what happens. Well, if you bet plus 200 underdogs, you need to win at a 33.3% clip. So what I would like for you to take away from the table is just to notice how the underdogs, you can win at a lower rate and still be profitable. But on the other side, or the flip side, when you bet heavy favorites, this requires you to win at a much higher rate. So it's almost like it puts you in a conundrum. So to move on to that, and we wanted to put in a place to tell you like what's the steps to betting this process. And it's not really a process. It's really just like how we outlined in our bet selection video, that this is the very, very 700-foot shot, that in the bet selection process you would start with betting odds and convert to a win percentage. Seems pretty obvious. Then you would produce a probability of your bet winning. Then the final step would be to compare both of them. Is it plus EV? If it is plus EV, you would make that bet. Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so now on to win probability. And this projecting a win probability in sports betting is very, very difficult. There is no set way to determine the exact probability of a sporting event. So this is where it gets difficult, because we can calculate the exact probability of a coin being heads or tails. Remember in our first example, it's 50% heads, 50% tails. 2 outcomes, that's it. But in a sports competition, there are so many variables that need to be factored in. Like, say, if the Kansas City Chiefs were playing the Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian Football League, I hope people would understand that the Montreal Alouettes do not have a 50% chance of winning that football game. On paper, just looking at it, there's only 2 outcomes, but because of the variables and because of everything that needs to be factored in, like talent level, competition, it's not a 50% chance win probability for the Montreal Alouettes. So what most handicappers do is they will use historical data and develop a prediction of the outcome into a probability. So remember, the handicapper will take all that noise that he hears and gets rid of it and uses his fundamentals like his fundamental analysis or technical analysis, however he is as a handicapper, he'll use that information that he likes to use and turn it into a prediction. With that prediction, you can turn into a probability. Now you'll take that probability and you'll compare it to the bookmaker's probability. That's how you get your plus EV. So make sure to track all your variables. Make sure to track your win percentage against all odds. That way you will know if you have plus EV or minus EV. Here's another example that we'll brush over. Just imagine that you like to place plus 100 underdogs. Well, if you look at a large sample size and you see your results for plus 100 underdogs and it's higher than 50%, that is plus EV, and you should be making those plus 100 bets. If it's under 50%, then it's minus EV, and you should not be making these bets consistently. Like I said, if you look at plus 100 and you filter it and say maybe you do an Excel sheet of all your back testing, and it shows that you're hitting at 53% for plus 100 underdogs, that's more than 50%. You should be making that play. Now, more technical handicappers, they may have a model or a system that they use, and this will produce their winning probability. So they'll take certain variables that they believe have a major, major weight in changing the outcome of a game, or maybe not changing an outcome of a game, but just making the outcome of a game. So they'll use that model. Say if a guy wanted to bet a game like the Bengals versus Steelers, for example, and he was a modeler and used a system, and the system showed him that the Bengals will beat the Steelers 55% of the time that they play. And then when he shops the odds, he finds out that the odds are a pick 'em. So it's minus 110. That is a plus EV bet. And that's something that he would use instead of maybe the more fundamental analysis in order to place his bets. Okay, so how do we keep plus EV? Or how do we obtain plus EV? Well, there's only really two ways. One instance, the payout is the same. That means you have to increase your win percentage. That's simple. Spread bets, they're basically or almost always minus 110. Totals are always, or mostly, most of the time, they are minus 110. So this means the payout is the same. It's not really going to change. So you would have to increase your win percentage in order to place that bet, if that makes sense. Because minus 110 translates to 52.4%. Like we went over, that means you would have to hit more than 52.4% in order to make those bets. Well, what's the second way? When the win percentage is the same, you must increase your payout odds. So, for instance, if you have a model and you have a win percentage and it shows that a hockey team tonight is going to win 53% of the time, that model's not going to change that number. That's the number you came up with. Well, you must find payout odds that will pay you higher than that 53 point something percent. Here's an example or a demonstration of a way you would have plus EV and then it turns to negative EV. So let's look at this example here. There's a straight bet on the Lakers at -3, and they're playing the Kings. Well, on spread bets, it's minus 110 odds. You believe, though, there's a 53% chance of the Lakers to win by 4 or more, so you feel that they're going to cover 53% of the chance, or 53% of the time. Well, 53% is more, it's greater than the minus 110 odds, right? The minus 110 odds for break even is 52.4. Our edge is 53%. So we have a very minuscule edge. Well, what happens if the odds change to minus 120? Do we still make that bet? The answer is no. The minus 120 makes the win probability or the chance of the scenario happen less than what we have as our edge. or more than what we have as our edge. So now you would stay away from that game. This slight change is often or pretty much ignored by many of bettors. I would say 9 out of 10 bettors will see that game switch to that odd and they will still roll with it. And hey, they may still have the positive EV. Remember that. That meant it may not take out the positive, but in this instance, the positive EV turned to negative EV, and this person would still make that bet. That's not good handicapping. As always, thank you for watching. If you like this content and would like to see more, make sure you subscribe. And also hit the like button so the YouTube algorithm can work its magic and also assisting to beat these bookmakers. Also, make sure to share with a friend if you enjoy the same content as you, and finally comment down below on any questions, comments, or opinions that you may have. Again, thanks and see you in the next one.